Hey, this is Notser, and we are on the map Strait. Now, this is continuing the tactical overview for maps, Strait being the next one, because we had a great game. Me and my friend Poimane, who is in an aircraft carrier, the Zuiho, I'm in the Gremyashchy, and let's be honest, the Gremyashchy is a very, very strong destroyer. It might be the strongest destroyer tier for tier, and yeah, sometimes you need that, because sometimes your teams are just not good enough. Now, the first thing that you should do, check the teams. Look at these teams. We have 2 aircraft carriers, 4 battleships, 5 cruisers, and 1 token destroyer, which is me. I'm so special. The enemy team has 2 aircraft carriers, 5 battleships, and 5 cruisers. No destroyer whatsoever. That's great. For me, I have nothing to counter my movement. I don't have to worry about an unseen target scouting me out. I know perfectly well when I'm going to be scouted by cruisers, aircraft, battleships, you name it. There's nothing that's going to pop up from nowhere. Alright, so Domination. 3 capture points, 1 in the north, 1 in the middle, and 1 in the south. Usually, A and C are highly contested by both sides, with B having a straggler or 2 deciding to go there. B is a extremely dangerous location to head because you are open to fire from both sides. As an aircraft carrier, your first objective on this map, try and send your aircraft through the center. It's wide open, it's unique to this map because of the way the spawn system works. You can move from the center to the enemy aircraft carriers, maybe the enemy battleships. You won't have to deal with all those enemy cruisers. You want to find an isolated target either way. Now, if you see in this game, there's no enemy destroyers. So what are the enemy aircraft carriers going to do? They should try and provide intel for their team. You're not really going to get by on the fringes. What I would suggest in a domination mode is you either try the center of the map or you look to counter the enemy destroyers by keeping them scouted. It allows your team to take them out. You don't really spawn that far away from objectives, so your cruisers and your battleships should be in range. Sometimes they're not. They might meet up in the center, but on domination, there's really no reason to leave the side that you spawn on. You have to try and have a 2-to-1 split on the enemy team. For battleships, you need to be very, very, very careful. Some ships at this tier actually have range on the spawn. Ship that immediately comes to mind, the Congo. Yeah, it can fire without moving at all, so you need to be angled appropriately. You need to stay as far back as you can afford. You want to support the primary objective. You don't want to move too far forward until the battle has developed, until one side has claimed victory. So you want to be right behind those cruisers, helping them out, take out enemy cruisers, enemy battleships, maybe getting a couple shots on enemy destroyers. But don't overextend too much. B is not really a point for you until the game has progressed. Cruisers, you're going to move a little bit forward. You're going to try and do a little bit of damage on those destroyers. You're going to be careful though. Enemy battleships, enemy cruisers can and will attack you. They're just looking for a target that's willing to show their side. This is the biggest mistake I find on this particular map. Too many cruisers, too many battleships will willingly show their side to the enemy. You need to maintain good angling. You cannot overextend, and you cannot show your side to great big battleships. They will exploit the fact that you are making such a huge mistake. Now, some cruisers are very quick, and they can head to B and support the push. There are a couple islands, both on the north and the south, that you can take advantage of. I would prefer that you not overextend unless, of course, the enemy team has chosen to get too far away from B as a capture point. You always want to be looking for advantages. If the enemy team doesn't have B, find a way to get B. If the enemy team does have B, find a way to take out whoever tried to capture B, because they're probably still in the area. And as a cruiser, you're great at doing all of these things. You have to be universal if you're going to pull a cruiser. Now, as a destroyer, it's a little bit more complicated how you should play the game. At the start, you really need to go for the objective. You really need to go for the objectives, C or A. It's really obvious. Now, if there are a lot of destroyers, and I'm talking 4 or 5 per side, then you probably want to think about heading to B as a destroyer that's going to give your team an advantage. But if you're in a situation exactly like this game, where there's only one destroyer per side. You've got to go for the objective that's close to you. If you run into the enemy destroyer, you pop your smoke, you get away, you use any intel to your advantage. I really like transitioning from C to B or A to B, maybe even A, B, C, C, B, A. You get the idea. It's great. It's very easy for a destroyer to get around the map and put the enemy cruisers and battleships in positions where they don't want to be. After the beginning, you need to make sure that you have a 2-to-1 advantage over the enemy team. You're not going to have a lot of control over what's going on the other side of the map. If you are someone who has a very fast ship, maybe you're confident in your ability to maneuver, well, then you could go to the center of the map and try and engage at long range. You could also use the islands to get safely to the other side of the map. That is also a possibility. If you see that your team is super dominant in the south side of the map on Domination, then you could go up early and support your team, maybe give them a little bit extra boost. A lot of aircraft carriers love to hide around the center islands, so be on the lookout for aircraft and the ship itself trying to hide. So Standard is a lot different from Domination. Domination is a little bit more familiar. You spawn and you go for objectives, usually the closest objective. Once you've secured the objective, you usually push to another objective. That sounds a lot like other maps, but Standard on Strait is very different from other Standard maps. On a map like New Dawn, we did New Dawn last week. Standard feels like Standard. You have a centralized point that you spawn from. You usually try and push as a team. A majority of your team, you might have 1 or 2 ships that choose to protect the rear, but generally everyone is pushing the same goal. You either run into a majority of the enemy team or you run into no enemy teams and you just go around in circles until some team blinks. So you could see the standard layout. There are 2 bases and they're on opposite sides. You still spawn 50% of your team in the north, 50% in the south, and I would say probably over 50% of the games, the agreed strategy is that your team will try and meet up at your base, so you'll travel through your islands and you'll go from there. Sometimes you've got a really slow US battleship, because let's be honest, down here, they're slow. Every US battleship you run into is really slow, so they can't really get out of the area fast enough. You need to not leave your teammate behind. You're much stronger 2 ships versus a single isolated ship. Aircraft carriers love to take those guys out. Speaking of aircraft carriers, their initial attack path is the same. The center of the map. It's great. It's wide open. No aircraft carrier, no cruisers, no destroyers, no battleships to be in the way. You can go through the center and decide the fate of the enemy. It allows you to see what's going on in the background. Maybe there's an aircraft carrier that's trying to transition to their base. They're pretty isolated. They will have to deal with islands. They won't be able to maneuver as well as they should, theoretically. And you just take them out. Now, there's no objectives to hold, friend or foe, near the edges of the map. It should be easier, however, it's not that easy on Strait, to get your ships along the border to the enemy team. And you need to just read the situation. If you see, in this game, our north has fallen. They're all dead. So the enemy aircraft carrier can use that as an attack path to go after our aircraft carrier, and there's not really anyone to protect him. And that is really important. You want to find easy targets that are isolated. I can't stress that enough as an aircraft carrier captain. Now for battleships, it's pretty much the same strategy as Domination. You spawn detected, basically. You need to keep that in mind. You cannot afford to show too much of your side. Otherwise, cruisers and battleships will be able to exploit it. Don't be too far away from your teammates. It's good to have the cruisers in front and you to be right behind them. You could transition to defend your base. However, as a US battleship, it will take you a very long time to get over to your base. The best strategy is the one that allows you to take out a lot of enemy ships. And for whatever reason, enemy cruisers love to show their side to you. So just be prepared. There might be a target that is within range and you can one-shot them or do significant damage, maybe a citadel. That's just the way Strait works. It's a small map, you spawn nearly in range, and battleships are great at doing damage when the enemy is within range. Cruisers, you need to be careful as well. In the standard mode, there are no objectives to go for, so you could move towards the north or south depending on where you spawn, and you can use the islands as protection. You can also use it as an attack path to go after maybe a target that's strayed too close to you. You don't want to show too much of your side though. Be mindful of this. It is so easy. It really is. As a battleship captain, it is so easy. I believe Strait is probably the easiest map for me to get kills right off the bat because you spawn so close. Cruisers just underestimate the threat until it's too late, until they're already dead. So as a cruiser captain, don't show your side. Keep in mind who can engage you. Try and take out any destroyers that might move forward to scout for their team. The good destroyer captains are not going to go to the enemy base and try and capture it. It's not going to happen. But if they do, it works to your advantage. You can just intercept them and take them out. Their goal is to try and cause confusion to your team, maybe force you to have to address the issue. It's not really an issue though. If you're a cruiser captain and you have hydroacoustic, you make sure that you count the number of torpedoes they might send out, then you'll be putting yourself in a position to take them out before they're even a threat. For a destroyer, I love to just move forward, bump into the enemy destroyer, keep them scouted, and take them out. I really do. I mean, as long as there's an enemy destroyer on their team, they have more power than they would without that class. The class itself gives so much intel. The threat of torpedoes, the speed to get around the map, maybe get in a flanking position. It's really important as a destroyer that you look to try and counter the enemy destroyer. Even if you're in a Japanese destroyer, you have torpedoes on a really low cooldown down here. You need to use them against the enemy destroyer, but don't blindly use torpedoes when your gun systems would be more than enough to take them out. I continue to watch way too many players refusing to use their guns as a destroyer. You just can't do that. You have to take advantage of everything that's available to you. I am guilty of not sending torpedoes every single time. It's the same scenario. If you only send your torpedoes as a destroyer, then you're missing out on a significant portion of damage. Now, as a destroyer on standard, I try to provide intel, and I try and get in position to send my torpedoes. That is really the goals that I care about. You're also expected to defend your base, because you're one of the fastest ships in the fleet. You have the ability to basically counter whatever might be there. The center of the map is a good place for destroyers as well. You can pull enemy ships to you just through attention, and you can use your teammates who might have been in the north to assist in killing that target. Probably the most consistent mistake I see in Strait is that players on both sides underestimate the distances that they spawn at and remain at. They consistently take too much damage, they show too much of their side, and they're not really ready for the onslaught to occur as early as it does. On other maps, it takes a significant amount of time to get into position in order to engage the target. That's just not the case with Strait. So keep that in mind. You need to be ready to go. You need to keep your ranges in check. It's good to have basic knowledge of the range that the enemy ships can engage at, so you can have a good understanding of what to expect. Now, as far as this match is concerned, wow, it's really close, right? Yeah, we've got to take out this Wyoming. He's coming towards the island system. We have the advantage, of course, because we can get very close. There are a lot of islands on this map, and if you make good use of them, you can get into these ambush positions to take out enemy battleships. And I'm going to take some significant damage. He's going to have to turn his ship, though, make it an easier target for my torpedoes, and I pop my smoke to hide. Although, he is within range. And we hit 2 torpedoes. We take him out. We were going to hit a lot more. He was in a bad position. He was too close. He couldn't do anything. We can choose to engage with our guns on the enemy Wyoming. However, I didn't want to do that. I felt like the threat was very real, that I might take damage from this enemy. Yeah, his guns were sort of pointed both direction. He's going to be turning. We're going to be looking for fires. This is my Udaloy captain. And by the way, tomorrow it's going to be an Udaloy game. It's a fantastic game. There are probably five of you that know which game I'm talking about because you were in it. Now, the friendly Poimane, he just hit a fantastic torpedo attack on this Wyoming. And we're going to try and finish him off. It looks like he put out the flood, and we're going to look for a fire. He might be immune to the first or second salvo, but he certainly will be able to take full damage. And oh, he barely misses with that torpedo. And there we go. We get a fire, and he's not immune to it. And is he going to burn down to it? He is actively using a heal. We also have an enemy Omaha in the area, and this is not what I want to see. He could easily take me out. I'm just too low. But it doesn't look like he's interested in engaging me. So we do have an advantage. And I don't think he actually had to use damage control. I think he did not have a flood. The friendlies take out the Omaha, and come on! Oh, this is so annoying. He's slowly turning. I think his intent is to engage the friendly battleship, so I'm not afraid. There we go, we got a fire. This should be it. This should give us the kill that we need. Is he gonna burn down? Yes! And we earn Kraken Unleashed. Now, there's just one enemy ship left, and it's a Zuiho. He's got 4 kills. He has carried his team. It's not going to be enough, though. It's a solo warrior scenario. He's just not going to have a chance. We have to kill him. But my teammate on comms, Poimane, I want Kraken Unleashed. I understand it. He tried to get it against the battleship, but it didn't work out. He's sending his torpedo bombers right now to go after the enemy Zuiho. And I have made a pact. I will assist you in getting the kill on the target. It would be really cool. Between us, we would have 10 kills. 10 of the 12 kills coming from my team. We queue up and we provide that sort of support to our team. That is fantastic, right? And the enemy is so close to Kraken Unleashed as well. This could be one of those 3 Kraken Unleashed games. I've had one before in my Imperata Nikolai Piewi, but it would be cool to have it again. Now, my friend, his first strike is pretty effective. He gets a flood, and he's able to land, I believe, 2 or 3 torpedoes on the target. His second torpedo attack is being hounded by enemy aircraft, and I was afraid to fire. I did not know exactly how successful he would be, how close he would come. He lands 2. Oh! And he's still flooding out. 910 hit points. Oh. And you saw my cursor. He put it out. He had damage control. He put it out once the last attack occurred. Man, so close for my friend. And he's on comms. I can't believe it. I can't believe it either. Now, my friend requests that he gets the kill. However, there's not a lot of time, which I didn't really consider when I was on comms with him. Plus, it wouldn't be the same. I know he doesn't get it a lot, but it's still, you want to earn these things. That's why they're worth so much. He did a fantastic job, and maybe next time. But this time, we're going to try and make sure that the kill stays within the family, sort of. 10 kills between myself and Poimane sounds a lot better than 9. And I think I got him this time. I think, yeah, there we go. We take out the Zuiho. That's our 6th kill. And between us, that is 10 kills. Now, we were able to earn Kraken Unleashed, of course. 6 kills, 15 fires, 3 torpedo strikes. A nice chunk of credits. Base XP was 1,442 for myself, 2,059 for Poimane. We did a fantastic job for our team, and I just feel so bad for the enemy Zuiho with 5 kills to his name. We did around 85,000 points of damage. I hope the discussion was helpful. Maybe it confirmed your strategy. Maybe it allowed you to understand what other classes are trying to do. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.